Hello and welcome to the Emmy Awards. I'm your host, Emmy Cardinale, and this is my podcast where I talk about what I've been watching or rewatching once a week. If this is the first episode of mine that you stumble upon and you enjoy it, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get notified when I upload a new episode. Like and subscribe if you're listening to this on YouTube. Share with a friend. This episode, as the title indicates, will be me covering the end of Big Brother. Last I left off on here was the double eviction with Lauren going home. So I'm going to cover everything that happened from then until the finale. I am recording this at like 3 a.m, Sunday night. So I will probably not get through recording this and finish it tomorrow. But I wanted to start today because I don't want the episode to be super late. My goal is to get the episode out by like Wednesday or Thursday, hopefully Wednesday. I think my episodes have been coming out like Mondays or Tuesdays. So since I'm recording Sunday, I had debated whether I should like record an episode Thursday night, but I was like, by the time I get the episode edited, the finale will air anyway. So I figured I would just include the finale. It made more sense this way. So that's what I'm going to do. And the last week was kind of expedited. But anyways, sorry for all the disclaimers. I would say timestamps in the description, but I'm only talking about Big Brother. So anyways, all that to say, really excited to get into the end of Big Brother 27. Apologies for any noise changes if I end up finishing recording tomorrow. I'll let you know too. Okay, so last I left off was Thursday the 11th, I think. Anyways, no. Sorry, Thursday the 18th. September 18th. How could I forget? It was right after the Summer I Turned Pretty finale. Anyways, so it was the double eviction. Kelly went home and then Lauren went home. And then Feeds came back that Thursday to a HOH comp on Feeds. Morgan was the outgoing HOH, so she could, because she won the double eviction HOH, so she could not compete. So it was Keanu, well, it was the remaining people, but it was Keanu, Vince, Ava, Ashley, and Ava went out first. I did watch this on Feeds. They kept calling this, like, after, when they were referring to this comp, they were, a few people referred to it as the pressure cooker. This isn't the pressure cooker. There are different endurance style competitions, and this isn't, like, the pressure cooker, they've only done it twice. It's been called the pressure cooker both times, and you're pressing a button the whole time. This competition where you're, like, holding something outstretched and you have to make sure something doesn't fall. They've done this competition before, but it's not the pressure cooker. The pressure cooker would be called the pressure cooker. They're different comps. That's annoying to me. You're not pressing a button. They're very different comps, which, by the way, they should do the pressure cooker again, but just not void it this time, because in Big Brother 25, when they brought it back, literally that week was erased with the twist. But, like, this isn't the pressure cooker, to be clear. But Ava's out first, and this competition did last overnight last season, and it came back and it was in Janky World. We didn't get to see it. It was like Feeds were down for like a long time, and then it came back, everybody was living outside, and Leah was the HOH with no explanation. We did get to see this one. It didn't last as long. I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there's a curse. I mean, I don't know, because the wall, there haven't been any other endurance competitions, I guess, this season. But I feel like last season, like, we got the wall on Feeds, and that one lasted like 30 minutes, but then we didn't get, or maybe it didn't last 30 minutes, but like, it didn't last that long. And then the endurance comp that lasted longer, which was the overnight one that Leah won in Janky World, we didn't get that one on Feeds. So it's like, I don't know. This was on Feeds, and like, it was an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour, but like, it wasn't like overnight or anything, which was, I feel like the first time, maybe not the first time, that's a little bit dramatic, but like, it was a very unexplainable feeling during the pressure cooker in Big Brother 25, how locked in I felt, to the point where I was like, that was like such a thrilling experience that I haven't felt with an endurance comp in a while. So I don't know. Anyways, Ava went first, then Ashley Ashley dropped her thing, and then it was Keanu and Vince, and it was them for a while. And Keanu was like so excited that it was just him and Vince, and they finally got to hang out he was trying to convince Vince to make a deal. Vince was not, or like to drop, and Vince was not going to give up on the HOH. And Keanu got sloppy. I do believe that Julie asked him about this, and he didn't throw it. Not that I think he would. Like, do I think Keanu would throw a competition? Yes, I'm not saying he would never throw a competition, but that's not how it read to me. I think he genuinely just got like super comfortable, and his reads are really off, that I think he felt a level of safety even if Vince won HOH that he really shouldn't have, but it is what it is. So Keanu drops purely out of like carelessness. That's a bit harsh, but he was just genuinely very confident and just conversing with Vince, and it fell. His stick fell. And so Vince is his new HOH, which was super exciting. I guess I was like, okay, the thing is, at this point in the final five, I had people that I really didn't want to win. And then I had people who I was like interested in seeing their path forward. Like, I feel like, and this is something that I honestly am proud of or that I appreciate about the way that I view the game, is that I try not to count people out. And for me, it's more about like, even with Lauren, I was like, there would be a path for Lauren if certain things went her way. Like, I think Big Brother, while some people play like very dominant games and it's like it's very easy to know who's gonna win, I think that there are a lot of scenarios in Big Brother where one competition like is what gets you the win. And so I try not to count people out. So for me at this point in the game, it was honestly like, I think some people have better chances. There are people I would be more happy with winning, but a lot happens in the end game that I was like, I'm interested to see how it goes. So I wasn't super worried. The people I was most rooting for were Morgan and Ashley of the final five. And because Vince is aligned with Morgan, I felt good about him winning over Keanu. Now, the good thing is, if Keanu won, Ashley probably would have been safe, but Morgan wouldn't have been. And I honestly felt like Morgan, at this point in the game, had the best chance of winning and was playing a good game. And I didn't want Morgan to go at this point. So I was happy with the outcome because I felt like the people that I most wanted to stay would stay, even if Vince was there, because Vince has not been my favorite player during the season. No hate to him personally. I know a lot of people have personal opinions about Vince, and I really try to stray from that, because for me, it's not even about that. His game really irritates me, and I wouldn't have been satisfied with him winning because of a lot of factors, which I'll get into as the week progresses, because I don't want to jump ahead to how I feel about. Anyways, so while Vince was not my ideal person to win this HOH, I would have preferred Ashley win, for example. I was glad it wasn't Keanu, because at least I meant Keanu wasn't safe for the week, right? Keanu could compete in the veto, so he could earn his safety, but if he won HOH, then it would be guaranteed to the final, to the next round, and he didn't get that, and I was very relieved. So Vince ends up nominating Keanu and Ava, which, obviously, who else would? He wasn't going to nominate Ashley at this point. Why would he upset Morgan like that? And he wasn't going to nominate Morgan. Keanu, very, very confusingly, I really don't understand Keanu's view of the game. I find him, he's very confusing to me, because Keanu genuinely felt like Vince would take Morgan, or Vince would nominate Morgan and keep him safe. He really thought that Morgan would be on the block. I of all the people, honestly, even Vince nominating Ashley would have made more sense. It's what do you mean? What do you mean? I don't understand that in any capacity. The only way that would make sense to me is if you were literally in the finals and he needs to cut Morgan because he won't win against her. Why would he cut Morgan at this point when the next few comps are so crucial? The final 4 HOH and veto are so important. Why would he get rid of Morgan, who is really good at competitions? And I guess from Keanu's perspective, Keanu's like, well, I'm good at comps and I would be loyal to Vince. But from Vince's perspective, he's like, why would I keep Keanu around? That doesn't make any sense. Keanu's burned me, Morgan never has. So, like, I don't understand how Keanu didn't see that, because it's like Keanu literally nominated Vince, and then Vince nominated Keanu, and while Keanu is on paper saying, like, I trust you, Vince, I'm not going to turn on you. I know that we've, like, had issues, but I'm not going to turn on you. I should, but I'm not going to. I understand that from Keanu's perspective, because he's in his brain. He genuinely is going to be loyal to Vince. So he doesn't understand why Vince isn't receiving that. But on paper, it makes more sense. On paper, from a purely like, this person has burned me and this other person hasn't, it makes complete sense why Vince would choose Morgan over Keanu in this situation. And it would make no sense for Vinny to nominate Morgan and Keanu. Like, if it was like, I need to get a comp beast out. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand Keanu's reads. He's a very, very confusing man to me personally, like, player. I don't understand the way he views the game. I think his reads are consistently wrong. Also, to note, this is the Mastermind week, so it's, like, sped up. So the veto happened on, like, the competition was played on, like, Friday. Veto's played, it's the tiny veto, and Morgan wins. So Vince's HOH, Morgan has the veto, and now it's like, will Morgan use the veto or not? I didn't think she was going to. It wouldn't make sense. Ashley would go up in somebody's place. Why would she do that? I don't know. At this point, I was like, okay, Keanu's going home. There was an interesting moment where Keanu tried to campaign to Ashley to get the vote to be 1-1 instead of 2-0, because then Vince would have to break a tie, and Keanu wanted to force Vince to show his cards. That was an interesting moment where Ashley was like, maybe I should do this. Like, you know, I didn't, interestingly enough, there was a lot of like speculation, because it was like a special elimination similar to Rachel's, like a special eviction. A lot of people were like, maybe there's some kind of comp that will save him, right? Like, they pull out another last ditch blockbuster to save Keanu at this point in the game. Interestingly enough, and maybe I'm wrong, but to me, the special eviction, the way it happened was that they went into the lair, which is the same place that they played the HOH comp, and nominations happened. Like, nominations, everything was different in that capacity, but besides that, the week wasn't, and it was sped up, but it was like, besides that, it wasn't like things were super different. But the special eviction was that it happened like out in the open. They like were like, I vote to evict Keanu, I vote to evict Keanu. And while obviously at this point in the game, it's not really like to the same degree where it's like anonymous, but I do wonder, I really don't think it would have made that big of a difference. I don't really know if Ashley would have done this regardless. Like, I don't think it changed much, but I think it's interesting just on paper that people were like, maybe this special quote-unquote eviction will be something that helps Keanu. I feel like, if anything, it 100% sealed his fate, because why would they out in the open vote? Like, Ashley wouldn't do that, because then if it was a normal eviction, maybe Ashley would throw a vote and force Vince to break a tie, and then just blame it on Morgan somehow. And Ashley's a good enough speaker that I feel like she could have done that. Like, maybe, I do think it being out in the open kind of in any way, like, I don't think that helped Keanu at all, because I don't think that Ashley would, to Ava's face, vote to evict Ava over Keanu, who, like, she has the final 2 with Ava. Ava's gonna take her. Keanu's a wild card. Like, it wouldn't have made sense in that capacity, whereas, like, maybe she could have blamed it on Morgan. I don't think she would have done it regardless, but I do think, if anything, this twist, I don't think it helped Keanu in any capacity. Not that I really think he had, like, the best, like, I think once he was on the block and he didn't win the veto, at that point, it's like, you have to go. Like, you have to go. We can't let you not like, we can't let you escape by this week, then we'll just fuck ourselves over. Like, it didn't make sense. It wouldn't have made sense to keep him. So they made the right decision in evicting him. And I was happy to see him go. No hate to Keanu. I would have just not been satisfied with him as a winner. Again, I think for me, the end game really does matter because I genuinely, there's one thing I've learned about Big Brother is like one comp win can genuinely change your entire game. And so I never like to count people out because it's like, in a hypothetical world where like Lauren wins the double eviction HOH and she gets Morgan out, Lauren has enough allies, maybe she could maneuver and comp to the end. Like, there are so many things that have to happen for people to win that while some people have better odds and like win equity throughout the game, and while there are some people who I think have very clear flaws in their game that make the idea of them winning unlikely or frustrating, I don't like to count people out. But for me, Keanu is a player who relied heavily on his comp wins. And I don't think there's anything wrong. Like, I think there's value to winning competitions. I simply don't think it should be the most important thing. And I think if you need to win as many competitions as Keanu did, then there is something missing from your game in that you have made yourself a target and not been able to like remove yourself as a target. You know what I mean? Like, people are targets at different stages in the game, but being a good player is being able to use, and I think Keanu had his moments, but he was never positioned well enough where like people made alliances with him and they kept him around like when they needed him, but he was never like aligned close enough with somebody to be like a Morgan and Vince where it's like they were ride or die with each other. And I think that was one of Keanu's biggest mistakes. I think he just also had a really bad read on the game, and that obviously translated into who he trusted because his loyalty to Vince was really not good for his game. And even when he nominated Vince and he was like, but I don't want you to go, I'm just doing this to teach you a lesson. It's like he really didn't understand the relationships that people had in the house. And I think that's such an important aspect of your game because I think, like I was saying, one move can like really shape your game. And I think the importance of knowing what moves you need to make when to guarantee that you're in the final two with the best chance of winning, I think that is something that Keanu just didn't have because, and I think it's clear in the way that he maneuvered the game socially, if that makes sense. Like, I think a good winner is able to be like, I know who I need to be up against in order to win, so I'm going to do everything I can. Like, I think all the time about June from Big Brother 4, she like wasn't the most liked person in the house, and she recognized that her best chance was against, and so she made sure that happened. I think there are a lot of really great players who have multiple paths to the end, and I think that's also great, but I think there's also something very smart about like knowing your best path to the end and making sure that happens. And again, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I think Keanu lacks, or he wasn't able to figure out which path to the end was the best for him. And so he wasn't able to execute it. Like, he trusted the wrong people and made the wrong moves and just like, I don't know. So in that regard, I wouldn't want Keanu to win because it feels like the only way Keanu wins is if he like comps out to the end. And I don't find that to be satisfying. But I honestly don't even know, like, if he won that HOH, then he wouldn't have been eligible in the next one. And then who knows? But I was happy to see him go just because I didn't want him to win, to be honest. Like, I find his game to not be satisfying, especially not like as a winner. I would have been really, really like not satisfied. I know a lot of people would have been, and I think again it would have been an interesting path. It would have just been kind of boring to me. But anyways, after Keanu is evicted, he gets an interview with Julie. Basically, on Wednesday's episode, they showed like everything, and then Keanu getting evicted, and Thursday was like the new HOH up until like the final four person got evicted, which I'll get to in a second. But Keanu, because he was evicted, not on a typical live eviction, he did get an interview with Julie, and an interesting moment for me. I'm not gonna like talk about everything he said because I don't really care. But an interesting moment for me is he talked about when Vince broke the tie in his favor and voted to evict Kelly instead of him, like that, like really gained favor with him. He does admit that it was faith in Vince that he never really lost, but it did, like that did stand out to him. And I liked when we eventually saw his jury segment. Rachel was like, "Why do you have the worst reads, Keanu?" I loved that. I really enjoyed the jury segments. So Keanu goes, and then the next HOH is played, and Morgan wins the final four HOH. And I was really excited. I was like, at this point, it's Morgan's game. Like, she's good. She's good to go. I was really, really proud of her. Like, I was like, she's really doing it, and I'm so proud of her. The nominations are Ashley and Ava. However, it all comes down to the veto at Final Four, because whoever wins the veto, if they're on the block, they take themselves off and then they have the sole vote. Or if the veto isn't used and the one person not on the block gets the sole vote. So it's really just about the veto at this point. Obviously, Morgan is safe and guaranteed Final Three, but of the three other people, nominated or not, what really matters is the veto. Hello, I'm back the next day, so if the audio has changed, that is why. So I was talking about the Final Four veto and how that really is all that matters at that point. Obviously, the Final Four HOH are guaranteed Final Three, so that's huge. But in terms of nominations, it doesn't really matter who's on the block originally. It matters who wins the veto. So going into the Final Four, I personally, of the people that I wanted Ava to go here just because of the Final Four. She was the person I least wanted to win, the person I least felt played a compelling game. The only pro for me of Ava staying would be that then Ashley would have a really good chance of being in the final two chairs. And I really liked Ashley. I was really rooting for Ashley. Like, the people that I most wanted to win the game, and I think I said this last episode, hopefully I'm not pulling this out of my ass and it's like, hindsight with the way the season ended. But like, I genuinely would be really happy. Like, for me, it was like Morgan and Ashley are the two people I would have been happiest with, and then Vince, and then Ava. So at that point, I wasn't that upset with any scenario, to be honest. It's interesting because I've seen a lot of discourse, like, now that I started recording the first half of this episode, like literally the same night as the finale, so I hadn't seen that much discourse, but I'm recording this a day later, and I have now read a lot of people's thoughts on this season, and I'll get into that when I get to like the end game and my thoughts on the way everything wrapped up and stuff like that. But an interesting sentiment I've seen is people being like, this season sucked, it was a bad final three, it was like, and to me, I don't understand that at all, because I actually, in the finals, and maybe it's because I wasn't particularly invested in any one player, so it was very easy for me this season to be like, depending on how the scenarios go, I'll be really happy with like people's end game. Like, I was really, really invested in the gameplay and the arcs of the season more than I was necessarily rooting for one person. The one person I really was rooting for was Rachel, because I never gotten to watch her play live. Obviously, I love her, and not only did I obviously have like a fondness for her because she's a legend, but she genuinely was playing a phenomenal game, and it was such a joy to watch her on feeds. So she was really the only person, Rachel was like the only person that I consistently was like, I'm really rooting for her to win. When Rachel went, I really at that point was like, I'm not really rooting in any one person. I want to see how their arc plays out, because I think there are a lot of interesting paths that a lot of the players have. There are some players that I would have been less satisfied if they won, just because I feel like their arc to the end wouldn't have been as interesting to me personally, or their games wouldn't have resonated to me personally. But I wasn't particularly like, I'm upset about any scenario. So honestly, for me personally, I didn't feel like it was a bad final three. I didn't feel like it was a bad final four. Like, genuinely in the final four, while I wanted Ava to go the most, if Ava stayed, then that would have opened a really interesting path for Ashley. Like, I think genuinely with the final five, we were in a really interesting spot depending on who won. And it was so game time decision, where it feels like there have been other seasons where it really at some point feels like it's just one person's game. And while Morgan definitely had a better chance in terms of like winning the final HOH and then having the power, and if Morgan was in the final two chairs, I think she would win. So like obviously some people had better chances, but I just like very much, I don't know if it was some gut instinct, but I genuinely was like, I don't want to count anybody out, because I think there are really interesting paths that people could take. Like one comp win could really change the trajectory of the season, and I was actually like not upset about the final four. I didn't want Ava to be in the final three, to be honest, but just because as a player, and I know I've talked about Ava on the podcast before, but Ava's a very interesting person for me because I really liked her at first. I found her to be endearing, and I also appreciated the way she viewed it as a game, because I feel like a lot of Big Brother, people have viewed it very, very seriously and emotionally, and like been like, I need to be a good person, and like I can't lie or deceive or like backstab, because I want to play with integrity and my moral compass, in a way that has frustrated me, because I said this so many times, but Big Brother is not about being the best person. It's about making the best moves to get to the end. And in that regard, I appreciated the fact that Ava was like, it's a game, like do what you got to do. But that kind of morphed into a kind of like, I don't really care attitude, where she wasn't actively playing. And I think that there is a like, I don't know, Ava, it got to a point for me with Ava where I felt like she wanted to be on TV more than she wanted to play the game. And I personally watch Big Brother for the game aspect more than I watch for it to be like, as from an entertainment perspective. Obviously it's a TV show, so I don't want to be bored. But for me, what I am engaged in is like the moves and like really being on my toes. And in that regard, I will say that this final, like this end game, I was locked in. It was gripping, and like I'll get to it. Not that I'm like I keep, but like anyways. So out of the final four, I was genuinely like very happy with the circumstances. I was glad Keanu went when he did, because the end game is so, like the comps are so crucial in the end game. I mean, the comps are always important, but like it's like especially the last few comps, you guarantee yourself a spot in the final two. So it's like I was glad he went when he did in that regard, because it was a much more interesting game. So going into the final four, veto, which is obviously the most important comp, it was a days competition, like with puzzles. It was like a timeline. I don't know how to explain it. I'm really not good at like explaining the competitions in detail, to be quite honest. But it was like you had to know the days, but you also had to like fit the puzzles in. I enjoyed the comp, and I feel like maybe not always, because I'm not like a Big Brother encyclopedia. Like I feel like I have decent knowledge, but I don't know. I have to say, of all the things that I know the least about when it comes to Big Brother, it's the competitions. I don't pay attention to stuff like that. Like I remember the iconic ones and the ones that had memorable moments, and obviously like I know OTEV and stuff, but like I really don't remember if like every Final Four HOH or Final Four veto is a memory comp. But I feel like it's very often something like this, similar to the way that the HOH, the final three HOH, it's typically an endurance comp, then some kind of like physical and memory based comp, and then the last one on finale night is like a quiz. That's been like the standard structure for a while, if not the entire time. So in that regard, like I don't know, but I remember like even in Big Brother 7, the first All-Star season, like the final three HOH, the first one was an endurance comp. and I like literally this still pisses me off. It was like an endurance comp, and they started it on the live show, and Mike Boogie was like, they both have to take me, and he jumped off. And because he jumped off, Janelle like was so startled that she removed one of her hands from the thing she was supposed to hold on to, so she was automatically disqualified, and Erica won that comp purely out of like Mike Boogie whatever, which is so unfortunate because I do feel like Janelle could have won that. But anyways, so like there are like, you know, classic things, especially the days, at least from recent memory, that is like a common thing. I'm rambling all unnecessarily. It's just honestly in the end game, it's like so there's less dynamics, so I feel like there's less to talk about. So I'm really diving into like the minutia of like things that are like, who cares at me? But hopefully you do if you're watching this and you enjoy it. But anyways, so it was that kind of thing. I honestly, it's hard for me to say because as a live feeder, I know who wins the comp before it airs. So it's not like I can be like watching it. I knew who won, so I'm like, I feel like Morgan had it in the bag, but like I knew Morgan had it in the bag. So, but Morgan did win the final for veto, and I think she was the first person this season to win the HOH and the veto. Super clutch. Now she had all the power. There was a lot of like tension and build up in the edited episode about like Vince is upsetting Morgan, and maybe this will lead Morgan to do something that will like get him on the block. I don't know if other people actually like, maybe I just didn't take this seriously, maybe it's completely manipulated. I never worried about that. Like, I genuinely, was that a concern? The thing about Vince and Morgan, and if you watch the live feeds, or at least you like try to listen to the recaps, you know that Vince and Morgan were very passionate in their discussions and arguments. And I don't really want to say they necessarily fought, but it's like, it wasn't like they were all just like sunshine and rainbows all the time. Like, they had very intense conversations where like Vince would get upset and Morgan would get upset. So like for me, all of that tension and like Vince upsetting Morgan, to me that never, I was never like, okay, I think this means that Morgan's gonna turn on Vinny, at least from a game perspective. Like, I don't know, the Vince and Morgan saga on feeds was like really up and down, but I genuinely never thought that she would, like, that wasn't even a consideration for me. That would have been I would have been really shocked. I don't know if other people, that was genuinely like there was tension built up there and I just missed it, or I didn't take it that seriously. But like, I was never worried that Morgan was going to use the veto. It wouldn't have made sense. She, like, at this stage in the game, you made the nominations, you have the veto. Why would you change your own nominations, especially to get out like your closest ally, whereas Ava's not going to take you to the final two? Like, it would have made no sense to like, I guess like save Ashley, but even then Ashley would have cut Vince, so it wouldn't have made sense. And I don't know if Morgan like had an inkling or knew that Ashley would have cut Vince there if it was Morgan, if like Morgan used the veto on Ashley. But like it wouldn't have been good for her. It would have made no sense. Like, I would have been really, really surprised if that happened, because it wouldn't have worked out in her favor at all, because Ashley would have cut Vince, and then Morgan's chances of being in the final two, like, that made no sense to me. So I really wasn't even worried that that would happen. I don't know if other people were, but when Morgan won the veto, I was like, okay, that means Ava's going, and I was like satisfied with that scenario. Because again, of the final four, Ava was the one I wanted gone the most. I think it would have been interesting if Ava or Ashley won that veto and then Vince went. Like, the scenarios would have been interesting in the end game, but I do think Ava was the least deserving of the final four to be in the final three. So in that regard, like, I was happy with the outcome, to be honest. I don't know. I'm really curious if other people, because like the thing is, Vince and Morgan, to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but I actually don't think I'm wrong. I feel like I'm right in this perception of Vince and Morgan. And maybe I am, though. Maybe I am wrong. This is just my view of Vince and Morgan. I was never worried that Vince and Morgan were like not going to be aligned. Like, I was never worried that something like really irreparable had happened. Like, I feel like in the edited show, they tried to make it seem like Vince said something and it really upset Morgan, and like now their relationship is on the rocks. But it's like they'd had a lot of arguments before that and they'd worked through it or realized that they, like, to me, and I understand that you can't capture like the depth of their relationship on the edited show to show all of the ups and downs. But as somebody who is tuned into the ups and downs, for me, I was never worried that this is when Morgan would turn on Vince. It made no sense to me. But there's a lot of interesting moments before Ava goes, like her trying to sow seeds of doubt. She called a house meeting, and this happened off feeds, and it was annoying, and they showed some of it edited. But like she said that Vince wasn't going to take Morgan. And Vince did say this to Ava at some point, but more so in a like, at least my read of it, and I don't know, not to give Vinny a bunch of grace, but I don't think he was saying that sincerely. I feel like he was trying to, and this is a thing that I feel like Vince did a lot, is he would try to hedge his bet and like say what he thinks the other person wants to hear the most. And it was just very sloppy. Like, I don't think he genuinely would have in any capacity aligned with Ava over Morgan. But I think he was trying to say that to Ava in case Ava ended up staying, so then he could maybe have favor with Ava. But I think what Vince didn't realize is that like people caught on to that. So that wouldn't have done you any favors. I don't even know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my read on Vince. Is like, I don't think him saying anything to Ava about maybe not taking Morgan was sincere. It was him saying what he thought would get Ava on his side in case Ava stayed. But in doing so, he fails to recognize that other people can pick up on the fact that you're telling them one thing over and over and over again and then doing another, and your word means nothing to them. And Ava like then told Morgan he's not going to take you, he's going to take Ashley. So it's like I don't know. Vince is a very sloppy player. Like, genuinely, Vince is a very sloppy player, and I think this is an example because I understand wanting to be safe in case Ashley stays, or Ava stays, but like I just don't think that's the way to do it. The way to do it would have been like, Morgan is a bigger threat than I am. Like, I think Vince, and again, this is just my opinion, I feel like Vince says what he thinks the other person wants to hear instead of assessing the situation and then saying the right thing, if that makes sense. Like, he thinks that Ava would want to hear, well, I'm cutting Morgan, I'm aligned with you, or like, I want to work with you, or whatever, instead of like recognizing that if Ava stays, the reason she would take him over, like, you know what I mean? And I'll get to it with the final three, because I have a lot of thoughts on like the way things transpired, but I just feel like he doesn't understand. And again, I understand, sorry, I keep cutting myself off, but like, I understand that I have a more like bird's eye view of the game, but I don't think that this opinion is just because of that, because I think Ashley and even Morgan at times as well, and like other people in the house and who have played the game, are able to understand what the other person needs to hear. Like, I feel like Vince just doesn't clock the right move. You know what I mean? And to me, like, I feel like it's that super clear and a huge flaw in his strategy and his gameplay, that he's not able to assess what is the right thing to say, what is the convincing argument. You know, like, he consistently misses that, in my opinion. And I think the Ava situation is a great example, because instead of being like, I should tell Ava that I'm going to turn on Morgan, he should be like, Ava, if you stay and it's you, me, and Morgan, like, you have a better chance against me. A lot of people are mad at me. Like, he doesn't say what I think is the actual thing the other person needs to hear. He says the wrong thing. He makes the wrong argument. And in making the wrong argument, people can tell that it's not convincing. He doesn't convince people. I don't know. Anyways. So on Thursday, Ava is evicted. I was happy about that. You know, it worked out for the best. The judges were in the final three, and I was very content with the finals, because I felt like Morgan had a really good chance winning. Like, she was probably going to win the final HOH, and then it was up to her to decide. And I felt like Morgan against anybody would win. So I was like very happy with the outcome, because I was like, okay, I think Morgan's probably going to win. But if Morgan doesn't win, like, there are still interesting paths to the end. And I will say that when the final three happened, I was like, okay. I was like, okay, Morgan's winning, and I'll be so happy because she played her ass off. She controlled Vince's HOHs and also won a lot of comps. Like, she's a very well-rounded player. I was really excited. After the final three, I was like, okay, Morgan is going to win probably, and that's great. I'm really happy with the circumstances we are dealt. The first part of the 3-part HOH competition was an endurance competition, and Morgan did win that. So feeds came back. Morgan had won the first part. I wasn't surprised at all. So Vince and Ashley were competing in final 2. And I honestly, at this point, just thought that Morgan probably had it in the bag. Vince was probably going to win. And this is no hate to Ashley, because I don't really value comp wins over social ability. So I'm not saying this in any, just if I was a betting woman with the circumstances and the track records, Vince was really good at comps as well. He had won the most HOHs. I was like Vince and Morgan were a power duo in terms of comp wins. So I really felt like it was going to be them against each other in the final HOH. And then, so for me, when feeds came back and Ashley had beat Vince in the second part of the final 2 or the final 3 HOH, I was gagged. I was like, oh my God, it's anybody's game. It's anybody's game. Like, at this point, it's either Morgan or Ashley that are going to win. And that's huge. That's huge. Like, that opens up so many possibilities because Ashley could win and Ashley could cut Morgan and win the whole thing. And Ashley was talking to the cameras and saying that she just needs to cut Morgan. And one thing I will say, and this was not at all captured in the episode, and I understand that, like, the finale, they have so much to jam into it, I guess. But genuinely, like, when it was Morgan, Ashley, and Vince, I was like, okay, the final 3 is pretty set in stone. And when Ashley won the second part of the final HOH, I was gagged and I was like, it's anybody's game. And the last few days of feeds were actually riveting because Ashley was really, really playing the entire time. And this is not the only reason, but, like, one reason that I will really go to bat for Ashley, because the way she played the end game was phenomenal. And I'm not even talking about, like, even just winning the final 2 HOH. I'm talking about the way that she convinced Morgan that taking her would be the better decision. She did that flawlessly. She really had Morgan doubting that if she took Vince, she might not win, but taking Ashley would be like a landslide. When I honestly think it's the opposite. Now, I do still think Morgan would have won, but I honestly think Morgan against Vince, it would have been a sweep. It probably would have been I don't know. I think Ashley, I think Morgan would have been a unanimous winner, to be honest, against Vince. But against Ashley, there might have been a few votes in her favor. I think Ashley can argue her case better than Vince can. So, while I think Morgan would have won regardless, it honestly wasn't a bad decision to take Vince, and it wouldn't have necessarily been a better decision to take Ashley. And she did such a good job, Ashley did, of convincing Morgan that the best path forward would be for her. Like, she literally guaranteed herself, even, she had won the final 2 HOH, so it wasn't even like she needed to convince both people. She did such a good job of guaranteeing herself final 2 regardless, that I really cannot applaud her gameplay more, because she knew that Morgan would win against Vince. Because again, Ashley, one of the best factors of Ashley's game, and something that I love so much about her, and I think is something that in contrast really bothers me about Vince's game, I love the way that Ashley is able to clock things. I think one of the best skills a Big Brother player can has is the ability to read a room and pick up on the best thing to say, who's aligned with who. She just clocked people's alliances, people's motivations, people's loyalty. She was just really, really good at picking up on things in a way that I don't think Vince did. I think Vince said what he thought he should say, but he didn't know. Ashley would pick up on what the other person needed to hear and then say, she was just I can't even articulate it because I don't think I'm making sense. Like, it makes sense in my brain, but I feel like I'm not explaining it well. I just feel like there's a social awareness of like genuinely assessing the situation and then like making the best decision instead of just thinking you already know without trying to scope out the scenario, like the situation, and then working off of that. Like, Vince would just say what he thought was the best thing to say. Ashley would like figure out what the best thing to say was and then say that, if that makes sense. So like Ashley knew that Morgan would win against Vince. Like, she clocked that. She understands Morgan's game, Vince's game, and she knew that it wasn't going to be close. She also knew that she wasn't necessarily a super easy person to beat. I don't think that she necessarily thought that she would win unanimously, especially against Morgan. I think she understands, and she said many times that Morgan is like the person to get out. Like, Ashley was really under-edited the whole season, but the last week of the show, a lot of Ashley's DRs were about like, I love Morgan, but if I can get her out, I'm gonna get her out. So like wanting to win the HOHs and stuff. Like, when going into the final 4 HOH, she was like, I want to get Morgan out, so I would like to win this so I could get Morgan out. Then when Morgan won the HOH, she was like, honestly, if I get the veto, then I can send Vince home, and that breaks up Morgan and Vince, and obviously I want Morgan gone over Vince, but like separating them is good for me. So like Ashley was aware of the fact that like she had a hard case against Morgan, but she also did a great job of like completely selling her. Like, Ashley did a really good job of selling herself as an easy person to win against. And while I do think Morgan would have won against her anyway, I don't think that Vince would have been really easy for Morgan to beat. I think Ashley had better argument. So she did a really good job in the finals, not only with like pulling out the win when she needed to, but also guaranteeing that she would have been in the final 2 chairs regardless. So in that regard, it's like, I don't understand how anybody could argue that Ashley didn't do anything. She like literally gamed so hard when she needed to. I mean, she was gaming the whole time. Like, I can talk about Ashley's game like very in depth, and I will in a little bit, but like the final feeds were like so thrilling, and I was actually going into a final, like a finale and a live HOH comp, I was like on the edge of my seat because it was gonna be like a jaw drop crazy moment if Ashley did win. So I was like really, really excited for the finale because I would have been happy with like every circumstance. So we also saw in obviously we heard after Ashley won the final, like on feeds, we heard that Vince got upset. We also found out that Dr. Will was the mastermind because they said that they got to see him. Frankie was hosting the comp. Anyways, but I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. So they talked about Vince like getting upset because he misread the instructions, and we saw on the finale in the edited version, we saw that. And honestly, this really pissed me off because Vince, it's like a physical comp where you have to like put together a puzzle and then you have to like solve a thing. And once they've completed the puzzle, the envelope says like write the order that the code to unlock the safe or whatever is the order that the house guests went. So Amy had like a blue background. I don't remember the actual colors, but like each person had like a color in their background, and they had to, like in the blue background, if Amy went second, they had to put a 2, if that makes sense. I don't even know if Amy went second. I think she did. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. The point is, Vince finishes his puzzle first, and he reads the thing, and he thinks that it's the days that they went home. So he completes his puzzle, he keeps buzzing it in, and it's wrong. It's wrong time and time again. He starts getting really upset. He's like, it's right. Ashley, meanwhile, hasn't even finished her puzzle. She finishes her puzzle. She fills it out the same way he did. And then she realizes that she misread it and he made the same mistake. So she's like, I need to make sure that he doesn't clock that I'm like, and she completely changes her answers, rings in the correct one, wins the competition, and then is like, Vince, we made the same mistake. Like, that was a very that was a great example of Ashley outplaying Vince and being very smart. It was really, really interesting too because Vince was like losing his mind. And when Ashley reads her envelope that says the instructions, Morgan is like, oh my God, it's the order they went home, not the day. Because Vince has been freaking out that like it's right. He knows the days that people went home. What the hell is wrong? Like he's like, I know the answer. I know the answer. He's upset. Morgan is like, oh my God, he messed up it's not the days, it's the order, and that's why he's wrong. When Ashley points out to Vince what the mistake was, he really gets upset. And while I think this is a valid reason to be upset, I really didn't like the way he talked about it because he's like, I can give credit where credit is due when somebody beats me. I beat myself. And it's like, no, actually, Ashley did beat you because instead of just getting upset and insisting that actually, no, you're right and something must be wrong, she went back and she figured out why her answers were wrong and then solved the problem. And I think this performance of Vince's is actually a really great encapsulation of Vince's game. Because Vince will like do something like I really don't think that he was able to like pivot or like figure out what he needed to do to get himself out of situations. He would just be in situations and he'd be like, I don't want to be here though. I don't want to do that though. Like his game really, really bothered me. I was very, very frustrated with Vince as a player throughout the season. And this was a perfect example because it's like I understand being really upset and being really angry and being like, but no, I figured it out. But like in a competition and honestly in life, but like not to bring this into real life because I hate when people do that. But like in a competition, when you're playing a game, you have to be like, I can't like get upset right now, okay? There's still a problem. Let me figure out what the problem is and why there's an issue and solve the problem. Vince just gets upset that there's a problem and doesn't think, what should I do to solve the problem though? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that bothers me about Vince. And I think this game like was a perfect example because he was just like, no, but I answered it correctly. Like you're wrong. The answers are wrong. Instead of just being like, what did I get wrong? I should reread the prompt. Like go back. And if there's one thing I've learned as somebody who's like a very quick reader and like scans things sometimes, like just, you know, it skims things sometimes when I'm reading an email or something, is like a lot of the time I do have to go back and I have to read things carefully and I have to be like, okay, I got this wrong. Especially because you know what, the brain is a very powerful thing. And sometimes you're reading something and like your brain autocorrects, you know what I mean? I don't know. So I think this performance of Vince's was a perfect representation of the shortcomings of his game because Ashley recognized that something was wrong and she went back and she reread the prompt and figured out what she had gotten wrong instead of just like getting angry. So it bothered me that Vince was like, I beat myself. Ashley didn't beat me. Like I can give credit where credit is due. No, you should give credit where credit is due because she figured out what was wrong and solved it. And you had a lot of time. Even if you were really upset, you had enough time to like have a little freak out moment and then calmly be like, okay, I'm missing something. Let me go back to the drawing board. And instead of doing that, he just continued to get upset and get upset and get upset. He did nothing to like either calm himself down enough to like try to solve the problem or just like propel the anger to solve the problem. You know what I mean? So like, anyways, Ashley did beat you in that regard because she was able to realize that she misread the prompt and then figure it out. So like she did beat you. And I think the only thing that I really feel like I beat myself, I would say that your like inability to regulate your emotions and then lock back into the challenge at hand, maybe in that regard, like maybe that's a lesson you can learn of like, and I say this with no hate in my heart because I'm a very emotional person and I've had my crash out moments, or I don't even want to call it a crash out. That feels like intense, but like I've had like moments where I'm very dysregulated and I like get upset and like, but at the end of the day, if you have a task at hand, you need to like lock back in and focus. Like I have a job where I have daily deadlines and sometimes something goes wrong or you like I swore that I missed something or somebody else missed something and something is delayed and like I get anxious and I get upset and I'm like, fuck, this sucks. But at the end of the day, I still have to get the thing due done. So I feel my emotions. I let myself be upset for a moment. And then I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to solve this? I can't let the emotion overcome the task at hand. And in that regard, I think Vince did like beat himself. But in the game, Ashley did beat you because she was able to figure out what was wrong. They bring out Dr. Will and he's like the accomplice, and then he's like, I was framed, and it's like this whole theatrical thing that was so unnecessary. And I will say, a few weeks, maybe it wasn't that long ago, at some point Keanu, I think this was a couple weeks ago, maybe it was like last week, I don't know, the end game moved so quickly, but Keanu at some point was like, I wonder if they don't reveal who the mastermind is, I'm going to be upset. And I quote tweeted, like somebody posting that quote, I quote tweeted it and I was like, the mastermind isn't a person, like he's just a character. I was wrong. I'm sorry to Keanu. I guess there was a mastermind. I would like to know if that was like something they genuinely thought of, or like, I don't even know, because I'm like, Ainsley wasn't like a character, but I guess she was like a robot, so it wasn't supposed to be like a person. But I don't know, like the thing that bothered me, actually, I'll get to this in the finale. Actually, no, I'm not going to get to this in the finale because it's such an irrelevant part of the finale. So I'm just going to get to it now. They did a little segment where they were like the mastermind, and they unmasked the mastermind, and it was like 3 people, and it was like Frankie from Big Brother 16, Jesse from Big Brother 10 and 11, and then Eric Stein from Big Brother 8, who was America's player. And it was like all about like, oh, we got screwed over by a twist. And they asked Rachel and the people of the, like they asked the jury, what do you think about this? And she's like, it was under our noses the whole time. And here's the thing, that would have had stakes to it if figuring out the mastermind's identity was important at all. Like even the end competition where it was like, you will unveil the mastermind, it wasn't a like, you need to look at the clues and have done all this research, or not research, but like all like studied in order to figure out, like use the clues to figure out who the mastermind is. No, you had to like build a puzzle and then know the order that they went home, and then that would reveal who the mastermind is. So it's like all these things where it was like there were 3 different masks, and like, and who cares? That wasn't information that they needed to know for any competition. Even the one competition that was like revealing the mastermind's identity had nothing to do with it. Like the masks switched. Like it felt so stupid. I'm like, when did they come up with that? I don't feel like it was there from the beginning, but maybe it was. I don't know. I don't like things like that. Okay, Taylor Swift has traumatized me enough with all the fucking Easter eggs. I don't care. I don't care about the secret codes. Okay, they had to know the days, and like even I remember in Big Brother 25 they studied the house so much, and I'm like, I don't even know if they ever asked them any of that. Maybe they did, and I don't remember it because I really blocked out the end of Big Brother 25. But it's like I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the only competitions that they asked about details like that it was about the days and when the order people went home. Those were the only ones I can remember. I don't think they asked them anything about like who cares at the mastermind there were 3 different masks, and like I don't know. I hated it. And it was so annoying that they were like, we got screwed over by twists and blah 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 blah. It's like, okay. Now I just feel like you're laughing in my face because I was so angry that Rachel got screwed over by a twist that you're like, look at all these other people who got screwed over by a twist. Fuck you. That really bothered me. So anyways, back to the game. But I just had to say that because that was really annoying to me, because I'm like, that added nothing to the game. Like if the clues built up to a comp, or like if you figured it out, you got some kind of special power. It was just some kind of decor in the house. Like it didn't mean anything. The mastermind unveiling, like if it was something like if you unveil the mastermind's identity, or if you crack this code, then like you dethrone him and there's no other twist or something. There was no stakes to who is the mastermind. So I didn't even give a fuck about that. So that bothered me. But anyways, I don't even remember why I got on that tangent. Oh, okay, because at the final 2 HOH, the second part, they unmasked that it was Dr. Will, and then that came back in the finale night, and I didn't care. So anyways, at this point, it's Morgan and Ashley going into the final HOH competition. As I've said, Ashley did a really good job of like convincing Morgan that taking Vince would be more risky than taking Ashley. She was really, really gaming very hard. And this is where this isn't even where Vince started to piss me off, because honestly, with no hate in my heart to him as an individual, it's so funny to me because after the season has ended, obviously it's only been a day. I'm recording the second half of this Monday night, but I've seen people being like, I want feeds, I want the information. I actually genuinely do not care at all about Vince, Morgan, their personal lives. Like I like Morgan, I'm gonna follow her, but like in terms like I'm not invested at all. I don't care about Vince's personal life. I'm not to me, I'm not gonna think about Vince again for a while. Like after I finish recording and editing this podcast and publishing it, like maybe for a couple more months, but like I swear to God, by the time like December rolls around, I'm not going to be thinking about Vince like again. So to me, when I talk about how he frustrated me, it's purely in the context of how he played the game. I really mean no malintent to him as an individual. Wish him the best, and like the emotional regulation stuff I said, I do genuinely, I don't mean that in any derogatory way. I say that as somebody who has like mental health issues. I do hope that he can at least learn to like regulate his emotions, and maybe he's perfectly regulated in his regular life and it was just the Big Brother house, so like no hate to him. I don't know. I'm only talking about him in the context of this game, not who he is in his day-to-day life, because he is a stranger to me and I am not impacted by his interpersonal relationships. That's none of my business. So anyways, all that to say, Vince in the end game really, really irritated me because he knew that to get to the final two, like he has no chance of winning the final HOH at this point. His only path is somebody taking him. And all his argument to Morgan was come on, I deserve this. Like, come on, like, please take me. Like, take me. I really, and other people articulated this better, but it really, really irritated me because I'm like, there are better arguments. There are better arguments. Like he could have been like, Ashley's been so under the radar. Like maybe Ashley has more people that like her. A lot more people hate me. He didn't do a good enough job arguing why taking him was the better choice. He was just trying to be like, but come on, I deserve this. Like, please, I can't be final 3. It was all like very self-deprecating and self-pitying, where it was like, but I can't. You need to take me in a way that was like, that's not compelling though. This is a game. Argue why you being in the final 2 chairs with Morgan is better for her game. Please. It was really, really irritating me. Meanwhile, Ashley is gaming and manipulating and trying to be like, Vince is more likely to win. It makes more sense to take me. Like, you're kind of like, she did a great job of like convincing Morgan that taking her would be the better option. Vince didn't do that, to the point where Morgan, his final 2, who had been so loyal to him, literally would have taken Ashley. So what are we talking about? Like, that is the thing that bothers me about Vince's game. And again, I think the competition is a perfect representation of that. He doesn't like assess what needs to be done. He doesn't lock in. He's not like, okay, what do I need to do to get to the end? And then like lock in, you know? Like, I always think about Nathaniel's video about, if you don't, you probably know who that is. But if you don't, he makes really good videos about Big Brother. His video about June from Big Brother 4, I think about that video all the time because there's a part where he says that, I think it was the June video. If it wasn't, then I'm really sorry. If it wasn't, then I'm sorry. But he said this in one of his videos, in one of the how to win, that there are players who like have many paths to the end, and that's like very impressive to be covered in all aspects and like have many people who will take you to the final 2 even if you don't win. But there are players like June who clock their only path to the end and then they make sure that happens. And I don't even remember why I started saying that. Oh, okay. I don't think Vince is able to recognize the path, like the moves that he needs to make to guarantee that he wins. Like, I don't know. I think about that all the time because I'm like, I just think that it's very impressive assessing your position and knowing this is what will get me the win, and then ensuring that you're in that position. And I just don't think Vince was able to clock what he needed to do to win. Like, I think Vince was like, if I get to the final 2 chairs, then I'll win. I don't think he was thinking about, like, I need to get to the final 2 chairs, and I need to make sure that I leave things on good terms with all these people. And I also need to make sure that I'm sitting against somebody who I can articulate why I'm better than them. And these are my two options. I need to figure out how I can articulate that I'm better than Morgan, that I'm better than Ashley. Like, he wasn't, in my opinion, and maybe he was and I just didn't see it, but I really doesn't feel like Vince was able to be like, okay, if I'm against Ashley, I need to argue why I'm better than Ashley. Let me figure out all the reasons that I'm better than Ashley and then build a case. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't feel like there was prep behind it. It was like, it really felt like he was like, well, if I get to the final two, then I'm going to win. You know what I mean? Especially against Ashley. Like, I think he knew that he would lose against Morgan. And he was right. But like, even then, and maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but I feel like even if you are like so certain that you were not going to win against the person you were up against because they have a better resume, I still think you should, bare minimum, try to come up with a reason, like have a case of why at the end of the day it still should be you. Because if not, then you're not playing. Like, that really bothers me. It's like, at the minimum, lock in and be like, if it's me against Morgan, I still need to go out fighting. Like, he had no fight in him. Maybe I'm wrong, but that was my take on Vince. I found the last few nights really annoying because I didn't feel like he was trying at all to convince Morgan to take him for any like good reason. It was just kind of a like, I can't believe I would come this far and be third place. It's so boohoo. Like, it was so annoying to me, and I'm so sorry to Vince on a personal level. I mean him no like ill will, but like, God, was he fucking annoying to watch as a player. I'm sorry, he just was to me personally. And you know what? I will say, as harsh as that is, and I do feel like I've probably been harsher on Vince than like I normally am on players, I feel like I, in terms of podcast hosts, have not been as harsh on Vince as other people probably have been. Like, I don't even care about his interpersonal relationships, okay? There are people out here calling him every name in the book. And I'm not saying that I condone being unfaithful. I just think that that's irrelevant to me personally. You know what I mean? Like, I talk about Tom Sandoval's infidelity because, like, his life was the show that he was on. Like, the whole point, like, you know, there are different kinds of reality shows. And when the reality show you're on is a game, then I want to focus on your game. Obviously, there are real world things that supersede that. If you're bigoted, I have my limits, but mostly I want to focus on your game, not who you are as a person, how you played the game. That is what I will critique, and that is what I will focus on. When I'm talking about a reality show like Vanderpump Rules, when the show is about your life, then I'm going to talk about your life because that's the show that I'm talking about. So that's why I don't dive into Vince's interpersonal relationship. I don't really care. That's none of my business. Whatever. So anyways, no hate to Vince. That just really did annoy me. So on the finale night, which was yesterday, we got the build up. We got the final HOH competitions. We saw Vince's freak out and then subsequent being like, I'm a loser. And like, the thing that bothers me about Vince, and this is genuinely the last thing, but it's like, I will say, I have very low self-esteem. I have a lot of issues. I wallow. I have depression. I understand that feeling. Like, I think that's why it bothers me, because on a visceral level, I understand that, like, life sucks. I'm bad at everything. I couldn't even be born correctly. Like, I understand that feeling. But I think what I don't understand and what doesn't resonate with me is, like, the lack of, like, trying to push against it, you know? I've spent so much time in therapy being, like, feeling bad about myself doesn't mean that gives me a reason to just give up. And I feel like Vince just gives up and he's like, this sucks, instead of being like, what is the task at hand? Again, I literally freak out at work like constantly, and I'm like, I'm literally gonna get fired. This sucks. Like, I'm a failure if I make like a tiny mistake. But you know what I don't do is give up, is quit, is be like, well, I'm gonna get fired anyway, so I'm not gonna finish what I need to do. No, I'm like, okay, I made a mistake and I'm upset, but I still need to finish what I need to finish. So then I make sure I finish that. Like, Vince is just upset about something and he doesn't like do anything to fix the emotion in a way that I find really frustrating. And I think it's especially confusing in a game like Big Brother, because it's like, yes, the stakes are high, it's a lot of money, but at the end of the day, if you lose a reality TV game show, worst thing that happened is you lost a reality TV game show. Like, that's not like a super real world scenario. It's like, if I'm freaked out about like like real world scenarios. I can't pay my rent, or like work is stressing me out. It's like those have real life like long-term consequences on my life. So it's like, you lost a competition in Big Brother. That sucks. You're not out of the game yet. Figure out how you can stay in it. Build a case so you can argue, if you're against Ashley, why you should win. If you're against Morgan, why you should win. Even if you think you're not going to, have a plan. Prepare for the worst, but expect the best. You know what I mean? Like, that is what irks me about Vince. Because it's like, of all the situations where failing is like genuinely, even if I went on like The Bachelor and I went home night one and that would feel really shitty and I'd feel horrible, I'd be like, well, worst thing that happened to me is I went home on a reality TV show, you know? So it's like, that's the thing that gets me about Vince, because it's like, and he also has a good resume. It's not like he's sucked at every competition. It's like, pick yourself back up and figure out what you need to do next to get, like, you know what I mean? So no hate to Vince, but it really did bother me. Anyways, so we get all that build up. It's very much building that Ashley will cut Morgan. I'm like 90% sure. I honestly don't remember super clearly. But I do not think that they showed much, if any, of Morgan really changing her mind on taking Ashley. Like, maybe they showed a little bit, but like it was a lot more in depth than they covered in the finale, obviously, because they had a lot to get through. So going into the final HOH, it's between Morgan and Ashley, and it's like a jury say facts about themselves, and you have to guess which one's false. And Ashley sweeps this. Like, they don't even go into a tie. Ashley wins by a few points, and she's shocked. I was gagged. I was like, I don't think there's any way that she doesn't come Morgan, but I was still on the edge of my seat because I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. At this point, I would have been shocked if she didn't cut Morgan, but I was also like, I don't know, maybe she would. Like, I don't know. I at this point, I was so happy either way. Ashley, however, does pull a Steve Moses, and she cuts the comp piece. She cuts Morgan, which was crazy to me. Big Brother 7 All-Stars, Mike Boogie cuts Janelle, who's like the front runner. She's winning all the comps, comp beast. Then Big Brother 17, Steve cuts Vanessa, who's like the front runner. Not a comp beast. Like, Vanessa and Morgan were similar in how like much they gamed. But from my recollection, I've only seen Big Brother 17 once. So I will be honest, I don't know it super well. But I don't think that Vanessa was like a comp beast necessarily. I think she kind of like was a mastermind controlling things from my recollection. So like the parallels are like in their paranoia, the way they talked about the game. A lot of people had parallels with Vanessa and Morgan. It wasn't just because of like this final three scenario. But so like in that regard, but like the front runner, Steve cut Vanessa final three, crazy. And then it happened in Big Brother 27 where Ashley cut the front runner Morgan, and that was crazy. I was like, man, Big Brother 37, whoever's on that season, they got to be careful. It's also so fascinating to me because Big Brother 26 last year, it was like a very similar, it paralleled Big Brother 16 where Cody won the final HOH and he took Derek and then lost to Derek. And it was like, obviously if he had taken Victoria, he would have won. Like he made a decision that then cost him the game, but he was loyal to his final two, whatever. Big Brother 26 paralleled that with MJ cutting Cam and taking Chelsea and then losing to Chelsea, even though if she had gone, you know what I mean? Like very much like the loyal, I'm going to ride with my final two, even if it costs me the game parallel. Crazy. So then this being like, I'm going to cut the person who's most likely to win. I can't, you know. And I will say the scenarios are different because it wasn't like, from my recollection, I don't think Steve and Vanessa they weren't a duo in the same way that like Cody and Derek were a duo. So it's not really as impactful as like Cody cutting Derek would have been, because they were like they were a final two day one like duo. So obviously it's not like the same as like, they're very different scenarios of like if Cody were to have cut Derek or if MJ were to have cut Chelsea. Like, the dynamics were different. But it's just so fascinating how, like, Big Brother 26, we got, like, a parallel, and then Big Brother 27, we got a parallel. So then Ashley and Vince are in the final two, and I was like, I think Ashley's taking it. Like, I think Ashley's taking it. I was so excited. At this point, I wanted Ashley to win. Of the final three, and I do think I said this last week, so hopefully I'm not just, like, pulling this out of my ass. Of the final three, I wanted Vince to win the least. I thought Morgan had the best chance and was the more well-rounded player, and if she made it to the final two, she would easily win. Ashley, I really liked her game, and I did think that I think it's just really interesting in the end game that one competition win can really shape everything. So I wasn't counting Ashley out. I was like, if she wins certain comps, like, she can make it to the end. She's well positioned. I think she could argue her case. I'm 100% positive. I said that about Ashley, that I think Ashley could argue her case. So I think there would be a very interesting path for her. So, like, I was really excited. The reason I wanted Vince the least is because I don't think he could argue his case. And the way he talks about his game and approaches the game has really irritated me, and I didn't want him to win, to be honest. I'm so sorry to Vince, but that's just how I feel. So I was really happy, and I was like, Ashley's taking it. Her speech, she'd been practicing it. There were some banger lines. She said that, like, I turned my enemies into allies. Vince turned his allies into enemies. Like, she was practicing and she was popping off. I was so excited for Ashley's performance. Julie announces the final juror. Morgan comes out. They're in shock. Rachel is super excited. Then Julie tells them that Ashley won the final HOH and cut Morgan. Rachel's, like, over the moon, and I was, like, tearing up at this point, and I was like, oh my god, Ashley's gonna win. Like, Ashley's gonna win. Rachel is so excited. I was so excited. I really felt like Ashley was gonna win. I just wasn't 100% sure how the votes would be. They asked their questions. The first question is to Vince, and it's like, a lot of the questions for Vince were basically like, we feel like you manipulated a lot, like you played with our emotions. Tell us why that was strategic. Like, your jury management wasn't good. Let us know, like, why burning all of us was good strategy. And he did a horrible job being like, that was good strategy. Like, he was like, no, I didn't cry for strategy. Also, when Kelly asked her question, she was like, you did a lot of crying and a lot of lying. Was that strategy or was it not? And he, like, completely forgot about the lying part. He was just like, no, I didn't cry for strategy. I'm just a very emotional guy. I didn't try to manipulate anybody. I was just being passionate. You know, like, he did a bad job being like, yes, I did. I needed to get you guys out. Like, you know, or like I think that Andy, for example, I think did really well in his speech in Big Brother 15 is he was like, I understand if you're mad at me. Like, you know, like I didn't want to upset you guys, but he acknowledged that the things he did screwed people over, but he needed to do it, you know? And Vince didn't do that. He was like, I don't think I did any, like, he did a horrible job. Even when they asked him, like, what do you think that you did that separates your game from Morgan's? We feel like your games were very intertwined. He said that him staying loyal to the judges was something that was not something Morgan influenced him to do. And it's like, okay, but you were in that alliance with Morgan. And if Morgan wasn't in that alliance, you probably would have turned on them. Like, the reason you stayed loyal to that alliance was heavily due to Morgan being in that alliance, first of all. And that's a horrible answer. And then he was like, it just happened that a lot of things were good for Morgan's game too, but they were for me. Like, he did a bad job arguing. And I think it's because he was not able to anticipate what they would ask him. He wasn't aware of the fact that he burned so many people and a lot of people would be mad at him. And if he was, then he wasn't aware enough to think that that would impact his game and would be something that he had to, like, defend himself against and be like, I understand you feel this way and I'm sorry, but I needed to do it. Like, literally at some point, he's like, my social game was, like, my strongest factor. I ended on good terms with, like, Kelly, and Kelly was, like, laughing. Like, he had a bad read on the game and, like, how people actually felt about him. And I really think he just didn't anticipate what the concerns about his game would be. And therefore, he wasn't able to push back against, like, no, I actually, like, I did this wrong, but here's why it was actually good, or why it was intentional, why it got me here, why like he wasn't able to do that. Ashley had a good awareness of her game and was aware of like the things she did well and the things that people would probably be like, we feel like you didn't do much of this. And she came prepared to argue why her game was good. Vince didn't do that. He did a really bad job. I will say his final speech wasn't horrible. He was kind of like, I was manipulative, but like I needed to be, that it got me here. Like he kind of at some point was like, I did manipulate you, but he had just said in the jury questions, like I wasn't trying to be emotionally manipulative at all. I don't think I did anything like wrong or like, it was just horrible showing. I was really, really confident at that point that Ashley would win. When they were giving their votes, Rachel, I was like not worried at all that like I was like, okay, Rachel voted for Ashley. She said like Big Brother is about winning when you need to win. It's social, it's strategy. I was like, she's definitely voting for Ashley. Let's be real. Ashley did win when she needed to win. She won when she was the target and kept herself safe then. And then she won the most important HOH and made a big move in cutting Morgan and got herself in the final 2 seats. Like, what do you mean? That does, anyways. Then Will says that like this is for my little girl. I was like tearing up at this point. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know, that warmed my heart. And then Julie's like, don't give it away. Lauren is like, I'm voting for, like, see you guys soon. She was so sweet. Kelly said that she was voting for the best social player. Ava said she was voting for somebody who believed in them even when she didn't believe in themselves or something like that. Like, thank you. I'm voting for the person who believed in us even when I didn't believe in myself or something like that. It was so beautiful. Keanu voted, it said he was voting, like he had previously said what he thinks a Big Brother winner should be, and he's voting according to that. I don't pay enough attention to Keanu to know what that would indicate. So I honestly thought that it was going to be, and then Morgan said that she was voting for the person who played the best game. Lauren, I was like, I don't know. Honestly, I was torn on Lauren. Keanu, I was also torn on. I thought it was going to be 4-3, 5-2. I was very pleasantly surprised. The votes were, Morgan voted for Vince, and then everybody else voted for Ashley. And it was Morgan's vote was revealed first. It was like, okay, she voted for Vince. Then Keanu voted for, or then Ava voted for Ashley, which I figured. Keanu voted for Ashley, and I was like, okay, she's gotten the bag. Then Lauren voted for Ashley, and I was like, oh my God, that's it. We did it, Joe. Kelly voted for Ashley. Everybody voted for Ashley. Because the people who maybe could vote for Vince were like early in the revealing of the votes. Like if they had revealed Rachel, Will, those people first, then it would have been like, okay, there's a bit more suspense. But as soon as Keanu and Lauren voted, I was like, okay, she has it in the bag. Like the rest of the people we know voted for her. So I was super happy. It was 6-1. And it really, I was so happy. I was so happy. What can I say? Keanu won AFP. I don't really care. I voted for Rachel. I'm glad he got something, I guess. Congrats to the people who wanted Keanu to win. That he's not my favorite player, but you know what? He voted in my favor. So in that regard, shout out to him for not voting for Vince. I really thought that Keanu would vote for Vince. I think a few things. I mean, Keanu has said this, that he had said that if Ashley won the final HOH and cut Morgan, that to him that would be the biggest move, and like that would really convince, like that would be a really big thing in like her favor to get his vote, and also just like the fact that she played loyal and true to her allies and everything, that he really liked that. So I think it was a combination of like Vince's messy gameplay and also the final decision. Like that was huge, and I really feel like people saying Ashley didn't do anything, the way she played in the final 3 alone, in my opinion, like she deserved the win so much. She made sure that she was going to be in the final 2 chairs regardless. And then when she was in the finals, she made the decision that was best for her and got herself the win. Like I don't need to go on and on about my critiques of Vince's game. I've done that enough, but like Ashley 100% guaranteed her win. I think I haven't seen Lauren explain, like I don't know anybody's perspective of why they voted for people, so I don't want to speak for them. Obviously, Ashley Rachel, or obviously Will, Rachel, that was obvious to me. I think Vince just like rubbed a lot of people the wrong way and did a bad job of like owning it. Like I think the thing about Vince is like, I really think that the frustrations I had with Vince in his game, I feel like the people in the game did as well, and they clocked that, and they were frustrated by his inability to like read the room, figure out like why people are maybe concerned about your game, and then be like, but actually, guys, I did it on purpose, and I know that I screwed you over, but I needed to screw you over to get here. He didn't do that at all. He was just like, I don't think I screwed anybody over. I don't think I did anything wrong. Instead of being like, I know I wronged you and I know I was messy, but it got me here because Ashley thought that she could win over me. I was guaranteed final two, even if he didn't know that he was. He could be like, I was guaranteed final two regardless. Morgan was going to take me. I convinced Ashley to take me even though she's closer to Morgan. I don't know. I can see very clearly why they voted for Ashley. I don't want to speak for them specifically, but I think Vince just did a bad job in the game. Ashley was a lot more strategic. She just was. She knew, and she said this, she knew how to be liked enough that she would be protected, but not too much that she was a huge target to get out. She rallied the votes and stayed over Will. That was huge. The fact that she was able to, like the week where Lauren was HOH and it was between Adrienne and Ashley for the renom, and Lauren was in an alliance with Adrienne, but Ashley had so many people and I even said this at the time, where like if Lauren had turned against Ashley, that would have really fucked Lauren over because of how many people were rallying against Ashley. Like Ashley had the numbers and she had just been a target. Like at that point, especially in a season when there are 3 nominees, once somebody's been on the block, there's an attitude of like, well, they've been on the block already. That's how Kelly and Keanu kept ending up on the block, because it's like, well, they've been on the block, you know, they like to play the comps. And eventually the people who have been on the block a lot like get tired of it and they're like, I don't want to keep being on the block because I've been on the block. Ashley was able to be on the block the first week and then not become like a perpetual, well, she's been on the block, let's nominate her again. Her name came up. And I believe one of Lauren's arguments was even like, well, she's been on the block before. But Ashley had enough people to be like, no, do not put her on the block. She like constantly pivoted. She constantly read the room and like sold herself to people. And like, again, like her reads were like phenomenal. Like she picked up on who was aligned with who. And she was just great. She was a great player to watch on the feeds. And it really bothers me that people never understand her game if they weren't like plugged in. But I honestly think even if you don't know all those intricacies, the fact that she was in such a good position in the final 3 to be in the final 2 chairs regardless, especially that she convinced Morgan to cut Vince, who like Morgan and Vince had been so close in the end game. Like that's huge within itself. The fact that she pulled out the comp win that she needed to, that she made the big move, all really, really great things in her favor. She was able to recognize how to sell her game, and she did that. Unlike Vince, she was able to recognize what she did well and what people would maybe have concerns about and then articulate her game. She was able to recognize also throughout the game what made people targets and what made people... It wasn't just like a last minute, she knew how to like sell her game. She throughout the game did things to build a resume. And even like the Judges Alliance, forming that was so smart of her because it got her in with Vince and Morgan. And there was like a fracture with like Morgan and Rachel, right? Like after Morgan and Mickey cut Jimmy, then like there was some tension with like people who had previously been aligned. Ashley was like, let's not lose Morgan. Morgan is an asset. And like that literally helped her so well. And even in the final, she was with the judges, but she also had Ava. She had won Keanu over during the Will vote, and even being like she was so well positioned to get in the final stretch that it's just like really, really unfair to like discredit Ashley's game. She like stayed under the radar enough, but like still was gaming socially and strategically and observing and picking up on the house. And then when she really needed to, she made sure she had like the strong alliances to get her to the end. I really, really love Ashley's game. And it really does suck that the edited show is going to have Like, rewatching Big Brother 27 is going to be so, like, where is Ashley's edit? That's going to be a little bit frustrating, but I am really glad that I watched it live, that I got to experience it, that I got to be like, I do see a path for Ashley and root for her, and I'm really happy. And if there's one thing that this season really validates for me is that while some people have better chances, one game, one competition can really change the whole thing. And sometimes it's anybody's game. And that's thrilling and amazing. And I love that. I genuinely love that. It's so fun. I don't like to count anybody out. And I'm really glad that I didn't count Ashley out. And I had the hope that there could be a very interesting end game path for her. And I'm glad that she fulfilled it. Really love her. She seems lovely. I'm so, so happy that she's the winner of Big Brother 27. Super, super exciting. That's all I have to say. I apologize if I whacked Vince too much. I really, really love Ashley's game. I'm really happy she won. She articulated it so well, and it really was very impressive to watch, especially in the end game, to see how well positioned she was. Like, she had a final 2 with Ava. She made amends with Keanu and realized that even though she had issues with Keanu, when aligning with him served her in the game, she did that, you know? She picked up on the fact that Morgan would win against Vince, but she was able to convince Morgan that it would be more of a gamble to take Vince than it would be to take her, guaranteeing that she would be in the final 2 regardless of if she won or not. And I even think that, and obviously we didn't see this, but I do think that there is also a world where it's between Morgan and Vince in the final 2 HOH. I think she's doing the same thing to Vince. She's convincing Vince that he has a bad chance against Morgan. He can easily win against her. I think she would have been in the final 2 chairs regardless. I really do, out of the final 3. And honestly, even then, if Vince had gone the previous week, she would have been fine. Like, genuinely, once she made it to final, like, when Morgan won the final 4 HOH, like, she was set. Or honestly, even before that, because I guess the one person, if Vince had won the final 4 HOH, but then it really would have depended on the veto, and then whoever wins the veto, like, she was good. As soon as, like, she was in such a good spot. So it really, I'm so proud of her. It was such a joy to watch. The end game, like, shout out to them for keeping me on my toes in a season that could seem like done before it was. I'm really glad. We really recovered. It was rough there for a while. Rachel going home was a bummer. And I'm still mad about the twist. I still don't think that people should go home during, like, losing when comp sends you home. I think that's lame. I still hate that. So, fuck the White Locust. But I'm really, really glad that Ashley won Big Brother 27. I'm excited for the Athanimal video. I know he's going to, like, that's going to be so fun to watch that instead of, like, going back and rewatching the season as a whole to really get Ashley's story, because unfortunately in the edited show you won't. But I know that he's going to do a great job articulating why, and also, like, Taryn has done a great job explaining Ashley's game and defending her, and it's been a joy. Like, this season has had its ups and downs, and I was definitely upset. But I think one of my favorite part of the season was genuinely, last season I was so locked in on Quinn, and I really just, like, wanted him to win, that when he went home, it, like, emotionally, it really impacted me. Whereas this season, I was really, really interested in the game, and I wasn't particularly, like, locked into one person in terms of, like, emotionally, like, rooting for them, except Rachel. And the Rachel eviction did hit me hard, but I think everybody was mad, so it was like, okay. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, congratulations to Ashley for winning Big Brother 27. It was a joy to watch. If you enjoyed the episode, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get notified when I upload a new episode. If you've listened for a while, feel free to rate and review. If you have any suggestions for what shows you want me to cover now that Big Brother's over, let me know. It's been a crazy few months. Big Brother and The Summer I Turned Pretty were airing at the same time, so it was quite a few weeks here for a little bit, but I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did as well. It's been truly such a joy. And if anybody from Big Brother 27 happens to listen to this, you're welcome on my podcast anytime, even Vince, who I find annoying. as a player. I have nothing against you as a human being. He's never going to listen to this. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. It means a lot. Hope you have a great week. Now that Big Brother's over, I haven't fully figured out what my schedule is yet, but starting next week, whatever day that goes live, I'll have a more consistent release day. So sorry about that, but hope you enjoyed the episode and have a great week. See you next week. Bye.